pirate radio from a place that sends things out of this world. FCC says no to a new twist on NCE Raleigh waivers. Guam still on high alert as Mawar passes through. And sifting through the inbox for a novel way to use shortwave frequencies. All of that coming up right now.
REC, FCC Today, Michi Bradley.
This is FCC Today, the podcast for Wireless Wednesday, May 24, 2023. The Enforcement Bureau has sent a notice of illegal radio broadcasting to the New Mexico State Land Office, the owners of the property that houses Spaceport America, the first purpose-built commercial spaceport in the world. According to the notice, an agent from the Denver field office confirmed that an unauthorized radio transmission was taking place from the spaceport property, located between Las Cruces and Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, during the period from June 21 through June 25, 2022. The unauthorized radio signals were transmitted on 95.3 and 96.3 megahertz during the Spaceport America's Cup 2022 event. The Spaceport America's Cup is the world's largest intercollegiate rocket engineering competition for student rocketry teams, with over 140 teams from colleges and universities in 32 countries. The letter cites Section 511 of the Communications Act, also known as the Pirate Act. Under the Pirate Act, any persons or entities found to be willfully and knowingly permitting a third party to engage in illegal broadcasting on their property could be subject to forfeitures of up to $2.3 million. While it is unknown to us what the specific purpose of these unauthorized FM broadcast operations were for, it does show yet another reason why we need a method of where event organizers should have a legal avenue to be able to get authorized low-power FM transmissions for short-term special events. A plan to authorize such short-term operations was proposed by REC Networks in the Wide FM Petition for Rulemaking, which called for an extension of the FM broadcast ban to include spectrum currently used by channels 5 and 6 on a non-interference basis. The New Mexico Land Office has 10 days to reply to the notice. The FCC denied a waiver filed by Park Public Radio, the applicant for two non-commercial educational FM stations to serve the community of St. Louis Park, a suburb of the Minneapolis-St. Paul, Minnesota metropolitan area. The applicant, who is currently the licensee of LPFM station KPPS-LP St. Louis Park, had applied for the 99-watt facilities to address a long-standing issue involving a dispute between the LPFM station and a competing modification application for an FM translator, where KPPS was attempting to move their station closer to Minneapolis using spectrum that was made available through the cancellation of another LPFM station license. In that case, there was a competing modification application filed by an FM translator licensee to use the same spectrum. The Media Bureau ruled in favor of the translator. That case has been appealed to the full commission for review. In the case of the NCE applications, one of the applications did not meet the requirements of Sections 73.207 and 73.215 for the protection of a commercial third adjacent channel facility. In their waiver request, Park contends that the FCC should grant the waiver because using the undesired to desired ratio method, which is commonly used in FM translator and LPFM assignments, there is no population in the area where the proposed facility would create potential interference. The other Park application does not meet the minimum distance separation requirements to a commercial station on an intermediate frequency, which is a frequency 10.6 or 10.8 megahertz above the proposed frequency. In making their argument for a waiver, Park states that the requirement to protect IF should be waived because the effective radiated power of the proposed facility is less than 100 watts and that the current rules do not require similar FM translators to protect IF channels. The applications also request waivers of Section 73.509 of the rules, which addresses the spacing between NCE stations. In this case, one of the proposals would receive interference from and cause interference to other NCE stations on second adjacent channels. Under current FCC policy outlined in the decision on Educational Information Corporation, the FCC may allow an existing NCE station to be able to increase their facilities in cases where they would be predicted to receive incoming interference from another station and the population in the area of overlap is minimal. This is also referred to as a Raleigh waiver. The FCC policy grants Raleigh waivers only to existing stations and has never granted one to a new NCE station. Overall, Park states that these waivers are justified as being in the public interest as they would help Park provide a stronger and more reliable signal than with the LPFM station, and that the waiver would resolve what Park calls a unique and messy situation with an FM translator licensee. The FCC had determined that these arguments made in these applications do not rise to the special circumstances necessary to justify a waiver. The FCC also cites the history surrounding the creation of 73.215, which permits short spacing and the use of contours to demonstrate a lack of interference. The FCC also upheld their position that Raleigh waivers are not available for new NCE stations, even if the application was from an LPFM seeking to upgrade to a full-service NCE facility. As a result, both applications have been dismissed. Petitions for reconsideration may be filed within 30 days. The island of Guam was hit by Category 4 Typhoon Mawar. NBC News reports that the eye wall passed over the northern tip of Guam Wednesday at around 8:45 p.m. local time with winds up to 145 miles per hour. It is reported that most of the island is without power, and KUAM reports that the entire island of Rota is completely without power nor water. The storm has also interrupted the communications lines to the National Weather Service's Doppler radar, as well as links to remote wind sensors. REC has not received any information on broadcast station outages in Guam or the CNMI. KUAM is reporting that as of midnight on Thursday local time, the typhoon force winds are expected to subside as the storm moves slowly away from Guam. As of Wednesday, 10 p.m. local time, the storm was located 20 miles northwest of Guam and 125 miles southwest of Saipan. The FCC's Disaster Information Reporting System remains activated until further notice. Guam and Northern Mariana Islands FM stations needing assistance can contact REC Networks by phone at 202-621-2355, by email at lpfm@recnet.com, or by Facebook Messenger at the REC Network's Facebook page, facebook.com/RECNET. REC Networks is located in the Eastern Time Zone.
FCC Extra, Michi Bradley.
Anyone can file a petition to the FCC to have a rule changed. It doesn't mean that it will actually happen, but it is one of the ways that changes can be made at the FCC. Let's look at one of those recent petitions as we go sifting through the FCC's inbox. A petition for rulemaking has been filed by an organization calling themselves the Shortwave Modernization Coalition. They have asked the FCC to initiate a rulemaking to amend its eligibility and technical rules for Part 90 licensees in the industrial and business pool to be able to use frequencies between 2 and 25 megahertz for fixed non-voice communications. In their request, they envision to use HF, or high-frequency spectrum, to transmit time-sensitive data over very long distances using skywave propagation. They argue that the transmission of this data through ground relay stations on microwave frequencies or through satellites would cause delays in delivering the data, and that a direct link from transmitter to receiver is the most efficient and fastest way for transmitting the data. The main purpose of the proposed operations is to permit financial firms to act as so-called market makers to improve efficiency, improve liquidity, and reduce transaction costs. The petitioner defines a market maker as a financial institution that participates in a capital market by buying and selling securities such as stocks and bonds and derivatives. The data transmitted through the HF stations would include buy and sell prices. The service proposed had been tested through experimental licenses. The petitioner is seeking to codify this application using frequencies already allocated to the industrial and business pool on frequencies that are specified in Part 90. Now, historically, Part 90 frequencies in the industrial and business pool in the HF spectrum have been used by companies such as the petroleum industry for oil spill cleanups and serves as backup infrastructure for the national security emergency preparedness activities of infrastructure providers such as major utilities and the regional Bell operating companies. In 2020, an application was filed for a new international broadcast station in Maple Park, Illinois, that would use spectrum allocated for international or shortwave broadcasting to transmit the stock quote data along with audio programming utilizing the world's standard digital radio mondial. That application, which included a waiver request, remains pending at the FCC. The petition for rulemaking that was recently filed is still seeking an RM number, so comments are not yet open on it, but just wanted to let you know what was in the inbox.
FCC Today.
FCC Today, the podcast, has been a production of REC Networks, always on at recnet.com. The podcast is available through Podbean, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, and on the Michelle Bradley YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Our comment line number is 202-963-0852. Keep up to the minute with events around the Media Bureau at FCC.today. If you need assistance with an FM broadcast facility, LPFM, full service, or translator, call 202-621-2355. I'm Michelle Bradley, KU3N, SBE Certified Broadcast Technologist. Thank you for listening. We'll see you soon.
REC.